So on number 31 here, we're asked to find the 6 trig values, so the sine, cosine, tangent, the cosecant, secant, and cotangent values, if we're given some information. We are given the fact that the secant has a value of -2, and that we are between 0 and pi radians on our unit circle. Okay, so we're dealing with the top half of your unit circle, somewhere between 0 and pi, so it's either a first quadrant triangle or a second quadrant triangle. Okay, so we have to first figure out what quadrant we're in so we draw our triangle correctly so we have the right values. So if you remember, secant is a comparison of the radius over the x value. Secant is r over x, and secant is a -2. Okay, and since the radius can never be negative, that means we're talking about +2 radius with a -1 x. Okay, it has to be a ratio, and we have a whole number secant, which means we have a -1 denominator, which we don't ever write because that's just silly. So we have a second quadrant triangle that we need to draw in order to get our trig signs correct. Okay. So let's do this. Here is your triangle, always formed with the x-axis. This is the angle that we're going to find. So we're talking about this theta, which is the same as having this reference angle. So we have a radius of 2 and an x value of -1. Okay? Radius over x is a +2 over -1. So the first thing we need to do is calculate your y value using our buddy Pythagoras. So y squared plus -1 squared equals 2 squared. So with +1 and 4, y squared equals 3. So our y value is the square root of 3. So let me put that over here, erase my letter y, and write in the square root of 3. So now that we have our 3 sides, we can easily write down all the other trig values. We already have secant, but we'll do that again just for fun. So we have the sine of the angle, the cosine, the tangent. Those are your common 3. And then we have the cosecant. We have the secant, which is -2. We're given that one. And then we have the cotangent. Okay, so sine is a ratio of the opposite side, or the y value, over the radius, which is √3 y value over 2. The cosine is a ratio of the x length to the radius, which is -1 over 2. And the tangent is a ratio of the y value over the x value, so √3 over -1, which we can just write as -√3. Okay, cosecant is the reciprocal of the sine, so 2 over √3, or r over y, which we can write as, let me change colors because I'm going to mess it up here, 2 roots of 3 over 3. Secant is already -2, and cotangent is x over y, which we can write as this, if you are so inclined.